Okay, let's get started, guys. Welcome. My name is Barros. I am the Chief Commercial Officer and co-founder of an NFT platform for electronic dance music called Record Shop. And I'd like to welcome you guys to the session today. We got a great one for you. First, thanks to our colleague, Alistair Kroll, who couldn't attend. He put this panel and session together and encountered some personal issues a couple days ago and was unable to travel. So I'll do my best to stand in his shoes. And thanks also to the audience for your attention and for your attendance at XP this year. So to kind of kick things off, I think today's topics are very hot on the lips of the music industry over the past few years. The three letters NFT have certainly caused a lot of speculation and consternation and curiosity. And there can be no doubt that Web3 and blockchain, NFT, and crypto are changing the creative industries worldwide, and sometimes in very different and unexpected ways that we didn't see coming even a few months ago. And sort of demystifying what an NFT is itself and how they interact with the creative fields and with art has already been a challenge for many of us in the business. And the follow-up questions are, how do I get into this NFT thing as a creator? Or how do I get into this NFT thing as a collector and a buyer, right? Supply and demand. I think when we look at NFT platforms over in the music space particularly, they've been springing up all over the place in the past 12 months or so. And things have gotten really exciting. I think that we'll talk about this more today, but probably what we'll see in the music space is that we're going to start moving past these very big ticket, high-priced NFT sales of one-of-ones and into different indications of moving past that beginning of the Gartner hype curve and into a more sustainable and sane and kind of long-term model. So basically what that means is imagine a $20 product instead of a $20,000 or $200,000 or $1 million, like some of the headlines that we've seen. Maybe the trends are going in that direction, but we'll talk a bit more. I think some other themes to think about in NFTs and music are that experiences with NFTs are becoming more gamified, and the experiences of unlocking content by collecting content is becoming predominant. Imagine an album coming out in the NFT world where it's a 10-track album, let's say, and if you're able to collect all 10, that unlocks an 11th thing. And that 11th thing is a bonus track, a backstage pass in the real world, in real life. So that in real life utility or those bonuses, those extras for completing collections is another theme that we can talk about and an undercurrent that we see in this business. So with that, let's do some introductions. I'll start with myself. So I've been in the electronic dance music business for 30 years as a creator, as a DJ and producer. I've owned and operated 4 independent dance labels myself, and been 20 plus years in the business world of music at the intersection of media, technology, and entertainment, with recent experience as the global vice president of a company called SFX Entertainment that was a $1.4 billion conglomerate that sort of took over the dance music world 6 years ago or so. And most recently as Chief Commercial Officer of Record Shop, which is my new platform. We started dropping NFTs in mid-August and have grown very quickly. We're up to 88 employees. We'll be at 100 people by Christmas, and have done some pretty interesting exclusive content deals with partners like Cocoon Records, Tool Room, Marcus Schultz and Cold Harbor, DJ Pierre, Robbie Rivera, Crystal Waters, Kitball Records, Juan Atkins, Quiver, Renegade Hardware, and dozens more. So that's kind of my introduction. I'll pass it over to Polina.
Oh, wow. That's kind of a responsibility now after that. Hi, my name is Polina. I do creative direction and stage designs and a lot of interactive installations, and I also direct CGI and 3D animation. Shall I say who I worked with? Worked with Drake Tour, Scorpion One, did work with Kanye and Billie Eilish and Olivia Rodrigo and a lot of a musician and fashion. So, and just art. And my background is in contemporary art. I studied at Sotheby's back in London, and ran a gallery at some point. So for me, it's very interesting to see how the whole thing of like digital art, translating into the contemporary art right now. And of course, like all the interactive installations that were purely in digital becoming physical, and vice versa, and what I call it's and not only me, but it's a digital world.
Thanks, Polina. Steve.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve Aoki. I'm a DJ, producer, but I'm also a avid collector, not just of NFTs. I'm a collector of a lot of physical art, cards, toys, shoes. I'm like basically a hoarder. Basically a hoarder, but I call it like.
They're like, finally, we don't need storage for that.
I have a very big house, so luckily with my house, I could hoard, and like the difference between a hoarder and a collector is collectors are just organized hoarders. So I am an organized hoarder. But the great thing about NFTs, and that's why we're all here, is that you don't have to actually have inventory, physical inventory of them. And I think the exciting thing about the space is that it actually invites a lot more people than just collectors and people that love art. It's like this junction between obviously all of that and the above, okay? But you also have people that love where we're going in the future, like prospectors. And you also have people that are just traders, that are investors, and that if you're a day trader, this is something that you can actually do, but you actually have a piece of art attached to it. Like for example, if let's say you invest in a shitcoin and the thing booms, you're not gonna put that on your Instagram profile like, I have this shitcoin, this identifies as me. You're not gonna do that. No one's gonna put Bitcoin or Ethereum as their profile, okay? But you'll put that Bored Ape.
Damn, now I'm like thinking about it.
maybe. But I was just like I got into Bored Apes at an early stage, so I'm wearing a Bored Ape jacket, proudly, or like certain things that you do in the NFT space. It gives you like this sense of identity, which is different than being an investor in, let's say, a coin or buying stock in Tesla or things like that. So you have the investing world, you have the collecting world, you have the art world, you have the futurist world, like thinking about where we're going in the future, because that is actually the umbrella of all of this, is that it's so early that people that are involved, the 1% of the people that are collectors, or 2%, maybe a lot more than that, are going, well, I want to set up camp there before everyone else does, because that's what you do when you actually make money, is you set up camp in places where everyone wants to go. Just like, buying a house in a neighborhood where you think everyone's going to move here. So I'm going to buy this piece of land for cheap because I really believe everyone's going to move here. And when everyone does, you bought the piece of land for $1, and then boom, everyone moves, it's $10. So you just 10x'd.
Buy low, sell high. Definition.
So it's like there's so many different, like it's so interesting, because as a collector, you have these little like niche worlds where you're like, oh yeah, people that love Nike Air Jordans, we all like talk about it and we all share about it and we all flex. Like, yo, I got the one that's like this rare and everyone sees it. No one else cares outside the room except for the people that care about Air Jordans. Okay.
Right.
Same with anything else that we do. This is all very small niche stuff. Like what you do is so GOAT status, because I'm a musician and artist. So, and she, like, when I think about the what's in your brain, you're like at this high tier. Many people might not understand it, but that the ones that do, like, no, you're the shit. You know what I mean? So, and same with me. Like, I'm sure there's people that like don't know a single thing about EDM going, who's this weird long-haired Asian guy over here? Why do people know him? Which happens all the time.
NFTs.
Yeah, they're like some old person like, yo, why are people taking pictures of you? I'm like, I'm just like it's Asian guy. I don't know. They've never seen an Asian guy before. But regardless, the whole point is that we all have our niche worlds, and NFT is kind of like a bunch of different worlds coming together, but it's still so early that it feels like we're in this exclusive club. And so that's why it's like I proudly wear this Bored Ape on my back, where I wouldn't be wearing like an Amazon jacket.
Right.
Like, I'm not gonna wear an Amazon jacket because I invested in Amazon. Everyone knows about Amazon. It's not like cool,
Right.
but like I'm wearing Bored Ape because like people that know, they're like, that's dope, and I'm like, we're in the same club. So it's an interesting conversation. But anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please. It's fascinating.
Mike Rosenthal,
yeah.
please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mike Rosenthal. I'm a co-founder of a company called Fanaply. We're an NFT marketplace for sports and music and entertainment. Started in the music world. I ran digital strategy for a band called OK Go for 5 years in the early 2000s. And so I've always kind of been on the artist side of the equation there in the music industry. Ran the marketing department at an artist management company for a long time, and got really interested in NFTs back in 2016, 2017 when CryptoKitties sort of first started popping up, and I sort of did a deep dive on the tech side of it, and I'm not a developer, but sort of went into that side of it and said, oh, this is digital scarcity. There's this thing, like that was my one takeaway. I was like, this is how we can get digital scarcity outside of a closed system like a video game for the first time basically in history. And like that to me was this aha moment. It's like digital scarcity matters. There's just so much you can do for fan engagement and fandom in general with these things. And Steve, I mean, to your point, like the idea of these as a collectible, like, I used to have a ticket stub collection, and I would judge my friends based on their CD collection, and streaming is great, and and social media is great, but they're great at kind of showing everything that you're into, and they're not, to your point, great at showing what you are truly, truly passionate about, right? Like, what is that like one ticket stub that you've got from that amazing show of that band that you love, or that like Japanese import vinyl that you paid way too much for to prove that you were a massive fan, and NFTs let you do that. And for me, that was just like an amazing moment to sort of see where this could come. And obviously 2021 has been kind of an amazing year. I was telling Eric before, we sort of spent the first, my company was founded back in 2018, and we spent the first couple of years really just educating, labels and managers and everybody in the industry that we could get on the phone, trying to explain how these were going to be this big new thing. And it's been an incredible year for it to see where it's gone. So
Thanks.
I'll leave it there.
Thanks, Mike. And we have actually one other panel member that couldn't be here physically today. Janet Sawari, do we have your audio?
Yes.
Okay, Janet's dialing in from Johannesburg, South Africa. Janet, can you give us a quick intro, please?
All right, wonderful. Hi, everyone. I am Janet Sawari. I am the head of artificial intelligence for Unpack AI, an AI training services and consulting startup based in Shanghai. I am also the head of artificial intelligence for Signify Group, and I work as a sort of freelance AI consultant to help build AI projects, augment them or improve them, do training and etc. And when it comes down to NFTs or blockchain and cryptocurrencies, I think this is more or less a new love. Even though I've been working in the AI field for a very long time, I just found that being here in Africa after the pandemic kind of made me come back home. I realized there were a lot of opportunities in how we can actually use blockchain and crypto to ease cross-border transactions in Africa. And there were a lot of opportunities that I identified from like public spending and governments, peer-to-peer trading, in agriculture. There are just so many opportunities that open up. And in the creative space, I actually realized that we did not have any traction here in Africa, and sort of thought that this would be interesting for me to dibble and dabble in this space as someone with a lot of knowledge in the 4IR industry and how it's kind of evolving. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and excited to hear what everyone's thoughts are on this particular topic.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Real honor to be on stage with you guys tonight.
Likewise.
Let's get into it, guys, into the nitty-gritty. So I have a theory that if you ask 5 people what an NFT is, you're going to get 5 different answers. So let's prove that. We have 5 professionals here that deal with this every day. I'll start. For me, when I think about an NFT in plain English, if I take away the fancy words and just boil it down to what an NFT really is, for me, it's simply a file, a digital file that I can save to a hard drive. It could be anything. It could be an Excel spreadsheet, a tweet, an MP3 file, a movie file. Just any sort of file that I can hit save onto a drive can be NFT'd, can have a token attached to it. And what that means, when I visualize it in my head, it's almost like a candy wrapper, like a cellophane wrapper around, let's say it's an MP3 file, around that piece of music. And that wrapper of code does 2 fundamental things that are quite interesting. One is it allows serialization. It allows a limited amount of that file to be produced. If it's an MP3 with a wrapper around it, that's an NFT, I can create 1,000 of those NFTs, or 500, or 5, or 1, or 10 million. I can create a finite, limited amount of that file. And each one of those files, say I make 500 copies of that NFT, that's an MP3, I have 1 of 500, 2 of 500, 3 of 500, and so forth, that are all laser engraved on this thing called the blockchain with a serial number. So it allows me to serialize a file, a digital asset, right? And create a limited quantity of it. That's one fundamental thing that I think about. And the second of 2 is that wrapper around the file lets me put a sticky note onto that file of ownership. It's like a registration document for if you own a boat or a motorbike or a house that says Eric owns this file legally. I mean, I think something like 88 countries now or something like that recognize NFTs as legal property, right? So legally own a file that only has a certain amount of it produced with this wrapper, this thing called an NFT or non-fungible token. That's it. That's how I think about it every day in my job. Mike, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that covers it. I mean, look, I think it also gets back to Steve's idea of, it's a collectible. It's something that it's that digital scarcity side of it to me that makes it so important. It's saying, I have one of these things. There are only ever going to be in the world 100 of this thing or 1,000 of this thing. And I can prove that because blockchain, right? I think for most people, the rest of it kind of doesn't really matter. I mean, it's sort of like, as long as you can prove it, as long as the rest of the world buys into that idea that is scarce, then that's all that matters. Now, when someone comes and does a ripoff project or something that's very similar to some other project, everyone else has to kind of say, no, this one's important. Bored Ape Yacht Club's is worth millions and millions of dollars, and this one that is very similar to Bored Ape Yacht Club is actually worth nothing because we all decided it's worth nothing. But they all have those same technical properties. I'm going to hijack the question for 1 second and just ask, how many people here actually have an NFT?
Good question.
Okay, those people have them. How many of them have actually seen the value of their NFT go up? Okay, some people. How many of you have done anything else with an NFT besides sell it for more or less than you bought it for? Great. For me, I think that's the big thing. It's like, what the hell do you do with an NFT? Great, you have this like amazing moment, right? I bought this thing, wow, I got one. Other people didn't get it. Now, what do I actually do with this besides just try to sell it as though it were a stock or a bond, as though it were like Amazon stock? Like, that's the part that I think is what we're all trying to now build the future of, which is just like, what's fun about an NFT?
And the buzzword there is utility, right? We hear that a lot in the business. Mm-hmm. What's the utility of an NFT? What does it do? Does it spawn another NFT? Does it create some kind of offline experience for me? If I buy 10 Steve Aoki NFTs, is the 11th one that spawns in my collection going to be a backstage pass or an artist meet and greet? Why am I collecting these things? Like, do they produce something else? Do they enable an experience either in real life or digitally? I think is a buzzword now. It's utility.
For sure.
I think you missed out on real life objects too. So if we look in this history of contemporary art, and like back in 2017, auction houses start using NFTs to kind of attract the provenance and like add this digital file, as you say, PDF, let's call it, to track where this artwork comes from, and it's basically a proof that you own it. So it's not only digital files, but it's actual real life objects that can have this NFT part of that.
Is that like a I don't know, some kind of sticker attached to it, or
Yeah, there's like it stops also counterfeit. So like say you buy, which I mean you hear about all the time. Someone spends all this amount of money on a watch, and and they find out it's fake later on. Now their watch companies are using NFTs to create that provenance and that authenticity, so that I have this watch and I also own the NFT. It's your title to the physical.
Totally.
so it's that authentication almost.
Well, I was robbed in London, and like my watch were never insured, and like nothing, and it's gone. That's it. If I had that NFT, like example, then now we can track that and be like, okay, that goes back to you.
I really believe that this time moving forward, well, like before this whole NFT conversation, we would invest so much time in so many different areas of our lives that it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about tracking your information so that there's a value at the end. Now, from here moving forward, I think that as we do certain things in our lives, perfect example, gaming. Think about how many hours that people spend in gaming. I mean, like, sometimes people spend their whole lives. They're like, they get home from school, they game till their parents say you have to eat dinner, then they go back and game. And to get what? To get a sword inside the game that they spent like literally 400 hours playing.
And then the next version of the game comes out and all that gets wiped away.
It's
totally.
But that's satisfaction.
That's very normal. So what I'm saying is that now moving forward, since this conversation is becoming more and more part of adoption of the mainstream,
it's a new layer of life.
Of like the way we buy and sell things. You're not going to game unless you get a financial coin or coin that translates to real money. Like 2 years later, my prediction is there'll be no more gaming. Of course, there'll be some gaming, but the majority of gaming will be with some level of NFT proposal where you make money at the end. You make some sort of outside IRL real value.
Does it have to be money?
And I'm also talking about everything. I'm talking about that shirt that you bought right there. So you spend $50 on this shirt, and also let's think about this. Everyone carries their identity with them wherever we go. Whatever we decide to wear, it's because we want people to see us. It's our perspective. I'm wearing Dragon Ball Z pants. I'm wearing a Dragon Ball Z because I'm proud. I love Dragon Ball. And like I know that there's someone out there going, that's cool. And I know that. And I'm connecting with them with my own perspective of who I am. I'm flexing in my own way. Just like a digital like on Instagram, it's a flex. I don't really want 50,000 people patting me on my back because they're like, yo, I like your post, I'm gonna pat you on the back. I don't need the IRL. I'm happy with the digital, like boom. It's digital. It is not real in real life.
No.
NFTs are in the same category of identity. And soon, the things that we buy, the things that represent who we are, our NFT wallet will be as important as our Instagram profile. That will be
100%.
the way, the reason why we spent $200 on a Louis Vuitton t-shirt or $2,000 on some shoes, whatever that is, it's going to be very, very clear that people, as we spend money, it's going to be like, I spent $5,000 on this because I want everyone to see I own it, not just for the value that I'm going to spend on it, but I just bought Takashi Murakami Artifact NFT this morning, as a prospect. If the thing might just fall off a cliff, but I spent overall in the last 3 days, I spent like about 100 ETH on just that project because I am a Takashi Murakami fan, and Artifact they're like crucial to secondary
to the
shoe
and the community
world, and Nike bought them.
It's the new development.
Is part of, so in that example, Steve, is part of the motivation also that 100 ETH is going to turn into 120 ETH in 6 months?
Of course there's that.
But that's a collector.
You want to do that for that purpose, but for me to even invest my time and money into it, I could invest into anything, right? Like there's like a lot of different possible projects that will blow up, but I decide to picked that one because Murakami represents something I like.
Right.
I buy his fine art. I love his stuff. I love his collaborations. If she does an NFT, I'm gonna most likely invest in her because I like her decisions of who she works with, whether it's Kanye or whether it's Billy, whoever she's working with. I'm like, she's like part of what I think is cool, right? So we all decide where we spend our money on. He might want to buy Balenciaga, and you might want to buy Louis Vuitton. It's all dependent on what you spend your money on, what you think is cool to you. And NFT is soon going to be part of the conversation where just as much as you buy things in the IRL, you're going to buy things in the digital because
But
we live in both worlds. I mean,
and I think that's the point, right? It's like
it's
you're buying things to represent who you are, right? So the examples of buying shoes because you want people who are into those shoes say, oh man, you're wearing those. Like I know those are cool. If people are now spending 90% of their lives online, then it makes sense that the things you're going to buy to represent you are digital things.
And
right?
what's different is that now you can make money on it.
Sure.
So that's that's the conversation moving forward. Is that whatever you buy, you can actually sell again. Mm-hmm. That's like something that
but sometimes
a lot of times you buy things you're not going to sell it again. You're not going to sell this black jacket again. You're going to keep it probably, But like imagine
for
you
a lot
sell
of money
that,
though, maybe. I don't know. But like going into NFTs again, like it's not only like collections. There's also, and that's what she mentioned, is people just trading that, and it's part of their lifestyle, and they might not associate themselves with those, as people like now say, JPEGs, but like I disagree with that. Yeah. But like it might be their lifestyle too, and that's a representation of your, like, you day trade, but then now you can trade a different way, and still, like, digital is coming, and it's gonna be part of our life anyway, and it's just the beginning.
But I think part of that's interesting is that these can give you utility, right? Like Bored Ape Yacht Club, you get access to certain things. Like it can buy you access or buy you other things beyond the NFT, right? Like we do a lot of stuff with like pre-sale tickets, right? If you own this NFT, you get this, or you get exclusive content from a band you want. Well, you may have bought that NFT early when you were really into that artist, and now 5 years later you're not into that artist anymore. But someone else really wants that utility. They're going to buy it from you not just to have that thing, but to have the utility that comes with it. So.
Janet, let's hear from you. Coming from the AI field, so a bit of a different field than some of the people physically on stage here. What is a non-fungible token to you, and how do you define it or think about it?
Mm-hmm. So for my space, it's more or less what everyone has discussed, that it's a unique sort of ledger that has unique information to it. Maybe I could describe it as a variable. From sort of my developer background, but it's something that holds great value in the AI space because it's more or less, like I said, unique. It cannot be exchanged. It cannot be traded in. It's like having sort of like a Mona Lisa type of code or software or item that you cannot necessarily come in with another one similar to it. I think that's the best definition I can give without going on and on.
Yeah. Polina, thank you for that, Janet, and we'd like to hear more from you in a few minutes on the topic. Polina, let me flick it over to you. You specialize in large-scale physical installations, so your entertainment isn't purely digital. Back to the IRL in real life that we were talking about earlier, how do you see these technologies changing the ways that audiences engage in what you're doing and what you're creating?
Oh my God, it's a completely new layer, and I am fascinated by it. Like, okay, so there's few things, and I actually discussed that in a different panel before that with the metaverse things, where we now just start seeing how the performances can be navigated in the digital space and how we can connect to the fans in a different spaces. Now, it opens up like a new world for me. Like, you tour something and it's gone in for example 58 shows. Now it can stay there forever, and people can reflect on that and also make NFTs, like make extra cash on that, make like digital merch, again connect to to the community and represent yourself in those spaces. And it's becoming like such a broadened way. I do believe that it's going to be a merge of physical and digital again. It's going to be like phygital for quite a while. And for example, what we did with Billie Eilish last year when she couldn't tour, and us and Moment Factory, we created this live stream, a digital live stream, where she was singing in real life, but we had her in XR Studio, right? And we were tracking her and adding the layer of the CGI world. And it's completely, changed the perspective of how people perceive those things. And even if you cannot go into the physical space right now, you can go into the digital space and still experience things. And of course, adding the layer of economy to that, like how the whole concert was organized. You get into the room and you can buy virtual or physical merch that's going to be sent to you in a few weeks, and then you get into a group chat into the room in a group chat with your friends, and then you can experience that live show together. So, and then adding a layer of like this digital to physical, for me, I'm obsessed now. Like, it opens up a completely new door for me, and I'm like, okay, I was the designer for emotions in physical world. Now I'm gonna be the designer for emotions in digital world.
Metaverse.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you.
It's over to you, Steve, and kind of extending on that topic. So, as Web3 kind of moves people from being users to owners, as you described earlier, how do you see that changing the relationship between you and your fans? Because you've spoken as a collector, but like, what about as an artist? Like, what does this Web3 mean to you, and expanding that fan discussion for you?
Yeah, so we haven't announced it publicly yet, but I'm sure it's gonna be announced so I could share with you guys. I've dropped a lot of NFT collections throughout the year, and but I've yet to drop a utility token for all things me or whatever, my brand, and and the various partners that I work with in IRL and in digital. So I've already DJ'd in the metaverse. It was like the first time would be during COVID, because it's interesting because I've DJ'd digitally, but the big first moment would be when I played in Fortnite in real time. So that was, I remember after I played that, I was playing in my house, but like they didn't tell us how many people were in watching the performance, but they said that the reach was over 2.2 billion people.
Insane.
So wow. If I don't know how many people that means that were actually in the game, but it's clearly a lot more than my IRL shows. Yeah. Would I rather play IRL or digital? Of course IRL. There's nothing that comes close to this. This is the most important thing. But I will always do this. But I also want to I'm a futurist.
Yep.
I think about where we're going, and I also want to reach as many people as possible. So having this kind of connection to that many people, and that was like last year, and think about how many more people are already living in the metaverse. Also, think about this. This is generational. So majority of the people in this room are probably 20 to 50, and the older that you are, the more absurd this sounds, because you've lived your whole life in the IRL. When you live your majority of your life in the IRL, then you look at like your kids in an absurd way. Like, my kid's playing in this game the whole time. I don't understand why he doesn't want to talk to me or my husband, or whatever it is. It's like the youth, the way people think about how we engage socially, how we're going to conduct business, is a completely different philosophy. and it's going to be way more digital. Almost, I'd say, in large part, majority of how we spend their money. If you were able to give them money to decide, hey, do you want to spend this money in Roblox, or do you want to get yourself a nice pair of shoes?
Yeah, there's no question.
I guarantee you they're going to spend money in Roblox.
Yes.
And
Same shoes in Roblox.
unless, but the parents that don't have kids that are not in Roblox will be like, I don't know, it's just so absurd.
Yeah.
But that's just the way. It's a generational conversation, and 5 years from now, we'll look back to this kind of time when NFT adoption and the metaversal adoption is like, well, that's strange. It's just like when you look back to videos in the 90s when people were like, I don't know about this internet thing. Like this internet thing is kind of like Web 2.0.
Bill
Like
Gates,
was like, I don't know about this thing. Like I want to spend time in the IRL. Like I don't want to go on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, like we all live on the internet, all of us. So this is just, I think, the next stepping stone of, like, you know, when you say Web 3.0, it's easier to see that this is going to be a very normal thing that we just do in our lives. Buying and selling, trading in the metaverse with NFTs, and you know, like you're saying, the phygital, that's like the next kind of way to have this onboarding.
Yeah, well, that's why Bitcoin even exists, right? I mean, it was designed for buying things in games, in-game purchases. That's why it's even around. So no,
but if you look at that, like back in the days, like I grew up with a computer in the house, and I was playing games since I was 5. Like I grew up in that reality, and then Web 2.0 was all about communication. Now Web 3 is like, okay, how we merge all this like gaming part and like real life and communication and actually own it, and not someone else like owning it for us. Like, okay, but that's a very, in my opinion, it might be my only opinion, but I know it's not only mine. It's basically claiming what's already yours, and it's a natural thing of like, it's a natural evolution of the things.
Yeah, but I do agree that we will look back on this year, I think specifically, as those like mid-90s videos of like people on early, morning talk shows trying to understand how to get on America Online or something, right? So it'll feel very obvious looking back that this was the beginning of that.
Or music becoming digital when MP3s came out.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So one more big question before we move into Q&A, because we want to hear from some of the audience members too. Kind of the elephant in the room when we talk about blockchain and NFT is green impact. You know, these machines that run blockchains suck up a lot of power, electricity, right? And so there's an environmental impact, there's a carbon footprint impact. Janet, do you have any thoughts on you know how you view that aspect of the blockchain business, and maybe Mike as well after?
I think you're absolutely right that there is that risk of a large carbon footprint that the mining leaves. It's a lot of processing power, you know, and if you see some of these sort of mining farms in China, it's ridiculous because they're on 24/7. So you kind of have to think long term, what are the effects on the environment? And one of the ways that you know, some farms are trying to become more eco-friendly is by using green tech, by maybe using solar power, or by trying to cut down on the times as well, or by simply using AI as a tool to sort of automate some of the processes that would take much longer and cut them in time. So I think that's another role that AI is playing in blockchain technologies, in facilitating automated trading as well. It really helps to reduce that carbon footprint.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's a huge issue, and the good news is like everyone knows it's a huge issue. I feel like there's a lot of places where like people don't talk about the dark side of you know, touring and how much energy they're using. Like everyone, if you ask them much about NFTs, they'll say, oh yeah, I heard it's incredibly energy intensive. And so, you know, the good news about everybody being really excited about NFTs this year is everyone's trying to find the solution to this problem. Everyone's moving to gasless, blockchains, or blockchains that really reduce the carbon footprint. And so I think the good news is that the market is going to drive that, especially with music and sports and entertainment. Like those passionate fan bases, fortunately, really care about those issues, right? So we work with musicians every day, and we talk them through exactly the environmental impacts, so they're aware before they announce an NFT to their fan base, because the blowback can be intense. So we're adding support for a bunch of different chains right now that are gasless chains, and everyone is sort of moving in those directions. So I think there's enough market pressure that in the next year you're going to see that just correct as much as possible. That's my hope, anyway.
So it was kind of a day one problem with Ethereum and
that is my hope.
Those modes. Yeah. Okay.
I'll just like to add on that with the current phase that we're in, especially after the pandemic, everyone's sort of looking at cryptocurrencies as the future and as the next option for trading, for all sorts of online transactions. And what's kind of scary or terrifying is scalability. We haven't even scaled yet. And then what happens when we actually eventually scale? This is not going to be a 2-year, 3-year process. It's going to happen overnight, and nobody knows when that's going to happen. And the main focus area to kind of address the eco-friendly aspect of things is, do we have policies and regulation? Do we have policymakers in government as well who understand these technologies enough to put in structures that protect the environment, and to put in ethical constraints that will make sure that there are certain capitalists out there who are not just going to take advantage of the lack of regulation and just totally ruin our beautiful earth. Yeah.
Good point.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Very well said, Janet. Thanks for that. Guys, let's open it up to the audience. We're all here to answer questions that our audience generated. So put your hands up if you have any questions. And there are no stupid questions, guys. NFTs is a very new space, so don't be shy, and feel free to ask whatever you'd like to ask. This gentleman here.
Basically, I wanted to put you guys on an NFT that I think is probably very underrated in terms of the art design and everything. It's really good. It's called Mars Cat Voyage, and I think you guys should really get into it because it's a really good piece.
Sorry, say again?
Mars Cat Voyage. I can show you a piece if you'd want, if that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Great. Take a look at it.
Maybe we'll just hook up just after so other people can get some questions in. Did you have a question, or did you want to just highlight that? Okay. Other questions, guys? Right here in the front, please.
Since this is an emerging source of revenue since we're in a music conference, we're going to talk about artists and bands. If I want press, I go to a publicist. If I want, to play on venues, I talk to a booking agent, etc. Is there a service where there's like an NFT expert? If I can submit a brand definition and like an entire presentation of the artist that I'm representing in my label, and here are the audience, this is the values of the brand, this is some references, this is a mood board, this is the lifestyle we're trying to appeal to, etc. And then we talk to someone who's an expert on how to design an NFT for that artist. How much are the amounts? How are we going to market it? So is there a service that does that for labels? That's the first question. The second question is, has there been any data analysis on how many NFT consumers are in Saudi Arabia, and if this is a market or the Arab world, and how much potential revenue can be generated off of that?
Sure. Let me take a stab at your first question. I'm not aware yet of a service like an agency that would help an on-ramp kind of situation for artists or labels. Because this is a new space, what I've personally encountered multiple times a week are individual consultants that are hired by artists and are hired by labels to on-ramp them into this NFT world, to get digital products produced and placed on the correct marketplaces and monetized. And there are some very sharp ones out there that are helping independent artists and labels. Big labels I'm not sure about, but a lot of business I do at Record Shop, I'm not speaking even to the artist, I'm speaking to that consultant. that they've hired to get them into this world. So it seems to me, from my viewpoint, that there's sort of that grassroots sort of ecosystem that's the on-ramp today. That leads me to think that, fast forward into the future, not that long, a year even, yeah, sure. There would be, it seems like there would be agencies, right, of some kind.
I mean, we do it today. I mean, we
go.
get people hitting us up all the time. We've got a self-serve platform as well, so we've got a full serve NFT builder on our platform we can give you access to if you're just an independent artist. But labels for sure, like we work with them. We've got a full campaign strategy team. They've done dozens and dozens of campaigns. So labels will come to us and say, hey, we kind of want to do this. We don't really know what we're doing. How many should we do? What should we price them at? What should the artwork be like? How do we fit them into an album rollout campaign or a tour? And we sort of map out do campaign planning with them, and then we execute. So no, I mean, like I said, it sort of falls between either like a self-serve platform where, if it's a smaller artist, we maybe just sort of give them the tools and they can work with it. If it's a label or an artist who's got kind of a bigger following, we can do more hand-holding, but it's kind of a spectrum there.
Yeah, so that varies though. I mean, on our platform, cloud is definitely part of it. We're a curated platform, so how much is the artist or label going to be able to co-market the products that we're putting on our marketplace factors in. That doesn't mean that I wake up in the morning and just look at the social stats for an artist to determine if they're adequate for the platform or not. There's multiple other factors, but reach for our platform at Record Shop is definitely part of it. What that just goes to show you is that there's just on this stage there's two slightly different approaches to onboarding.
Yeah, exactly.
I would be, sorry interrupting you, but I would be, if I wanted to, as an artist or as an record label or emerging record label, would want to step into this game, and you recommending figuring out the consultant, like I'll be so sus of those consultants, the unknown ones.
Yes,
like,
and you should
how
be.
do you pick one? Like,
Right.
let's be practical here. Like, we establish ourselves and everything. But like, if we don't know anything of the space, like, how do you do research? Like, how do you pick those consultant people to you trust to work with? Basically, how an artist or a label find these people.
Yeah, I mean, especially now it's a wild west, and so there's so many people jumping up. What do you have to do to be an NFT consultant or a specialist? Just say you
Just
are.
say you
one,
are.
right? I mean,
put it
it's
on your
like-
LinkedIn.
I think it's more about like what you've done in the space.
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
Exactly.
I think honestly, every single person in this room can drop an NFT. That's the
Yep.
whole point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like you don't like I'm a collector, but I'm also a creator. Everyone in here is a creator. That's what's so exciting about this space. But that's also what's so scary about it, is that since everyone could be a creator, that means that the barrier of entry is zero. Everyone could flood the market, and then there's just so much. And there's a lot going to zero.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
So that's the difficult one. The difficult part is investing in things that don't put your money that like you're saving for your real money in NFTs right now, because it might go to zero.
Yes.
You need to put this is play money.
Yep.
If your play money is like $500, that's it. Don't do anything more than that.
It's like
really,
the casino.
'cause
It's like the casino, right?
but-
You got your
yeah,
$500.
but like it's also can go to the moon.
Right.
So I've got FOMO'd in a lot of, you call it ape. I've aped into a lot of projects where like my friends are jumping in. I'm like, oh, okay, just like going in, and then it just drops off a cliff. It's like you have to be prepared for that kind of thing if you're going to go in. But that's just the nature of when everything is wide open. Now, the other thing that's exciting about it being wide open is that you that have a question, you can answer your own question by just doing it.
Exactly.
That's like the point is that if you have an idea, it probably hasn't really been adopted in a major commercial way where your idea is going to be like covered by everyone else's ideas. There's just so many out there. And if it's really ingenious and if it's really disruptive, then you have something that can go to the moon. And you don't have to be associated or attached to these big corporate institutions or big, powerful money makers. You could be one person in a bedroom. The people that made Dapper Labs, CryptoPunks, their kids They're little kids. I did a Zoom with them, and they're super young. They made the most valuable NFT project in the world. These are kids. Yeah. This NFT is actually really about the youth. It's really about genius ideas, and you just test them out. It doesn't work, no problem. Do another one. Yeah. You know, it's like literally some of the biggest NFT projects are drawn by a non-dominant hand. Like it's all based on like what people think is what everyone wants it to be. Yeah. It's just how it's like the stock market is. Yeah. Works very similar. The stock market is a bunch of invisible stocks. You don't have 10,000 shares of Tesla in your bedroom. You know, you just buy it and it's backed by XYZ and you trade on it and you make money, you pull money out. Same with when I bought a CryptoPunk for $150,000 and I put it up for sale for 300 ETH 10 days later and it actually sold 21 days later. I made an $850,000 profit on a CryptoPunk. I mean, these things, they happen. That's real money that came back to me. So it's a real way to actually buy and sell things. So it's, you know, that's just one story. There's plenty more. But there's plenty more losses too. Yep. So it's a really vicious, turbulent, you know, buying, selling game. It can be really fun, exciting. It creates a lot of FOMO, but you have to, you know, take a few breaths and like, you know, only invest things that you're willing to lose.
Yep. Well said. Sounds like a casino again. Like I said, like it sounds like a crapshoot sometimes, right?
I'll just like to add on to that briefly. Just a few touch points. I made some notes. So I think definitely if it's an approach that you'd like to make for an important brand and there's a large investment involved, I would say at this point, an expert, a consultant would sort of be someone with a marketing background or sort of a business strategist who really, really understands marketing, because I think that's really what made some of these unique NFTs pop. These kids that, you know, Steve talks about, they didn't even know what they're doing, but they had a really smart, unique product, and it was marketed in a unique way, you know, intentionally and unintentionally. And to sort of be able to mitigate risk is to have a really diverse set of stakeholders in your team. So don't sort of look at it as it's a one-man job, one-man solution. If this is for a big brand, to mitigate risk, you want to innovate with diversity at the table, with different individuals that can actually bring interesting skill sets and ideas. And you want the value at the end of the day to be more customer-centric or human-centric. Who are you doing this for? And to add on to what Polly also mentioned earlier on is, don't just have the virtual product. You know, it's unique, it's fun, but it's extremely risky. Make sure you couple it up with something real. You know, in South Africa, there's an artist I recently worked with, and she did this virtual sort of exhibition using augmented art with AI. And then she coupled it with a coin. And it's the only coin she's ever made that looks like that. Something like that would make sense because they're two value points that can draw people in, and there's actual value if that NFT is going to flop. They have that unique coin. So I think that's my 2 cents that I can add in. Hope that's helpful.
It is. It is. Thanks, Janet. And thank you to the rest of the panelists as well. We have to adjourn, unfortunately.
I think Janet had one more question. Do
we have time for one more? One more. Do we have a microphone or? Yeah.
Hi. Thank you very much. Your information is super helpful. I cleared up a lot of the fogginess around the subject. What would you suggest is the best way to sort of navigate through this rapid information that's happening all the time? Like, is there any websites that you recommend that is like the go-to places where you will find the latest updates on what's happening in the NFT world? Yeah.
Anyone?
I mean, There's loads of them. I mean, I'm trying to think now. Like, I think NFT 101 is a newsletter. I don't know if you guys know that one, but that's like a kind of a nice digestible. I think there's a million of them out there, so it can just feel like there's kind of a chaos of information. There's a lot of great Discord channels that people are on right now. Check out the NFT 101 newsletter. That's just like a kind of a simple. I think it's once a week even or something, kind of a roundup, and they link out to a ton of things there as well.
Music and
that,
water.
The most important social media platform for NFT discussion is definitely Twitter.
Yeah.
Like Instagram is not a place for NFT discussion. There's a lot of information going on Instagram, but I would trust Twitter as your most reliable source. Yep. And also, Discords are incredibly important as far as the community. So when you think about the community of different projects, you want to get into the Discords. That's the best way you're going to get the roadmap and all the information that you're going to be investing into. It's your shareholder meeting for the stock that you've invested into is your Discord, and that's like it's just a part of NFT community conversation is going into Discords. Size of the Discord, don't let that fool you as well. Sometimes they'll be like, 100,000 people in the Discord, because when you see that, you're like, oh wow, this thing is like a monstrous project. A lot of that is just like baloney. So don't believe numbers, and definitely try to like find other friends in the space that you trust, that you can handhold and like walk into things together. And like I said, don't overinvest. Have fun in it. It's definitely fun. It's exciting. And create. Make an NFT. There's going to be like I saw this one company, and they minted an NFT off of his phone in less than 3 minutes. He took a JPEG from his phone and minted it and put it on OpenSea in less than 3 minutes. Once Perfect. I saw that, I invested in the company. Obviously, I was like, this is going to be a game changer. So if this one young guy, this guy's 23, I don't even know how he's young. If this guy is coming up with a company like that, there's going to be plenty more where people can literally mint everything. Everything's going to be an NFT soon. Everything. It's just something that it'll be part of our lives. People will just be minting things just like you're taking a picture on Instagram. It's going to be very, very common.
Yeah. Thanks let's make that the last word, guys. Thank you, Steve, Paulina, Janet, Mike.